Hey, hello there, Sully here. Welcome to Transitions, my YouTube channel. This is episode 2 of my series, So You Want to Be a Truck Driver? Today, I'll talk about the process of getting a CDL. Before I start, however, please subscribe to my channel. That way you'll be able to see future episodes in this series, and also you'll be able to view some of my previous content. It's real easy. Just hit that subscribe button and then be sure to hit like and share, because you never know. Maybe somebody that you know is thinking of becoming a truck driver and they could get something out of this. Now, in order to get your CDL, the first step is applying for a learner's permit. Even if you have a regular driver's license, to get a CDL you have to go through the process of getting a learner's permit. Now, if you go to a truck driving school, they usually handle that detail. They help you get your CDL. But if you're going to get your training at someplace other than a driving school, say you know somebody who has a CDL and is willing to take you on and teach you how to be a driver, you're going to have to go through the process yourself. And it's not that different from when you applied for your regular driver's license. But at this point, I can't stress more that you need to make the decision that trucking is for you. It is as much a lifestyle as it is a livelihood, and it requires sacrifice. You'll be spending weeks at a time on the road, and even when you just graduate school and get your student training, you'll probably be away from home for maybe 3 months. And you're going to have to learn to live with people you never met. And you're going to be living in close circumstances. And you have to also understand how it's going to affect your home situation, because training pay as a student driver doesn't pay nearly as well. So that's something you need to understand. That's something you need to be crystal clear before you even decide if you want to proceed with the process. Now, how do you decide on a school? That can be as simple as doing a Google search. YouTube is also a great source. There's lots of truck driving schools that post videos. But remember, if you're watching a video sponsored by a driving school, they are going to be tooting their own horn. So, the best place you can go is look to channels by other drivers who talk about their school experience. Any video that is sponsored, produced, and or distributed by a particular driving school, or a particular company for that matter, that runs their own driver training program, take those with a grain of salt. Now, the easiest way to judge a video and what you're going to get out of it is if that video contains a call to action. Come to our school. Come work for our company. Take such videos with a grain of salt. Now, you have to find a reputable school. And I am going to tell you to avoid like poison any school that says, we'll get you your CDL in 3 weeks. After all, you're not going to make money in the classroom. You're not going to make money till you get out on the road. There's a lot of CDL mills out there. They take your money. They graduate people who are not qualified. And they usually are the ones that are disappointed in what they do. So find a reputable school. Fly-by-night schools are out there. CDL mills are out there. Recognize it. And also, companies that are fly-by-night companies and run their own training program. Just remember, if you're watching a video and it contains a call to action, beware. If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck. Now you also have to see how flexible that school is. You want to find out if they offer an employment service, who their drivers get hired by. You also want to know their graduation rate, too. I mean, how many students who start finish. I'm going to tell you right now that, and this is not just true of truck driving school, this is true of any technical training or any vocational training. It's even true of college. I'm a college dropout. I dropped out of college after 1 year. Half of everybody that starts out on some form of vocational training, half of them don't complete the program. Also, you want to know if that school has flexible hours, because you might need to keep your job while you're going to school. So do they have classes on the weekend? Do they have classes at night? Also, if you miss a class, will you have the opportunity to make that class up? Now, the first contact you're going to have with a driving school will most likely be a recruiter. Keep in mind that that recruiter is a salesperson, somebody who is paid on a commission. They get their money based on how many students they enroll in the school. So they may or may not have a vested interest on whether or not you graduate. If it's a numbers game for them, they're going to promise you the moon. Remember that salespeople use tactics. They stress the benefits. They don't say, well, we offer a driving school. They're going to say, you should go to your driving school because we're going to get you a job that's going to pay you $80,000 a year. Just remember that a professional salesperson makes their living by blowing smoke up your skirt. And they're always going to ask for the order. There's always going to be a call for action. That's a sign of a sales professional. And I've done sales. And I didn't make a single sale by going to somebody who says, hey, I have this service to offer. Oh yeah, I want it. Do me. I had to ask for the order. And because I've had experience in sales, I understand how salespeople work. You're also going to hear, and you're going to hear this until you're sick of hearing the term, you're going to hear about the driver shortage. Now, anybody who's been in this business for any amount of time knows that the so-called driver shortage is a myth. It was created by the American Trucking Association and by the big carriers, and they go out to the news media who doesn't know any better and say, oh look, there's so many openings in the trucking industry. Ask why. Now, I can put this under my humble opinion, but the reason that there is a so-called driver shortage is not because there are more jobs than are drivers out there. Big companies hire a lot of people, and they have high turnover rates. Some of these companies have turnover rates of 100%, which means that doesn't mean they're going to lose all their drivers. Every driver that they hire in a given period is going to leave, or that same number is going to leave, and they need to replace those people. And the most economical way to replace an experienced driver is with a student, because students make the least money. Drivers also become disqualified for whatever reasons, poor driving record, health, people retire. So there is a retention problem in the trucking industry. It's not a shortage of drivers, it is a shortage of drivers who stay with companies. And the companies supposedly are addressing that issue, but because you're going to hear, you know, again until you're sick about, oh, how much we've raised salaries. Okay, one particular company has recently raised across the board pay by 14%. That sounds pretty good. But what were they paying before that raise? The reason they probably had to raise their pay 14% is because they were paying below standards. So, any promise that sounds too good to be true probably is. So any promise that you get made to you, whether it's by the school or by a company, get it in writing. Also, if you're looking at a school and you want to go with their reviews, don't get the reviews that the school sponsors. Get independent information. Go online, Google search, YouTube, Instagram, use your Facebook. Look these things up. Talk to other drivers. And you also have to understand that I realize not everybody lives in a metropolitan area like I do, where there are driving schools nearby. Chances are, if you're going to go to a driving school, whether you go to a school or you go to a company-sponsored school, you might have to travel and stay there. And if you do that, chances are, if it's a company-sponsored school, they might pay your transportation there. It's going to be on the Greyhound. They may, but most likely won't, give you a per diem to buy food. And if they do give you a per diem, count on it not being any more than 20 bucks. You're not going to get a salary while you're in school. And if you have to travel a distance away from your home that requires lodging, that's going to be on your nickel. So when these companies offer free training, take that into consideration. You have to travel at your own expense. And even if you go to work for a company that says, well, we'll pay to get you there by the Greyhound, ask them, well, if I drive my personal vehicle, do I get compensated? If I choose another mode, say rail or air, will I be compensated at least the amount of the bus ticket that you would normally give me? And if they do help you out with your lodging, chances are you'll either be staying in a bunkhouse with a bunch of strangers, or if they put you up in a motel, you're going to be sharing a room with somebody that you don't know. And you're going to be spending personal time with a stranger. And also, if you go to a company-sponsored school, you're also going to have to give a commitment. They're going to require at least a year out of you. And during that year, you're going to be paid rock bottom rate. You're going to be the lowest of the low. You're going to get the worst equipment. You're going to get the lowest rate of pay. Now, they might say, well, we're just doing that to see if you got what it takes, or you're paying your dues. Well, that's partially right. But if you don't fulfill that commitment, if they say you give us a year and you can't put that year in, you're going to owe them for that school. And that could be as much as $5,000. So the best thing to do is find a school close to where you live, one that you can commute to. That might mean your personal vehicle. For me, because I live in an urban area, I was able to use public transportation. And that was a boon, but not everybody is that fortunate. But find a school near where you live. Also, weigh the cost. Now, these fly-by-night schools that are going to get you your license in 3 or 4 weeks, they might be the cheapest option. A very good school that has a good graduation rate, has a good hiring rate, they could be upwards of $10,000. The average is about $5,000, $6,000. Minimum cost, though, count on at least $4,000. Now, where are you going to get that money? If you're seeking a career in the trucking industry, chances are you're in a dead-end job, possibly even a minimum wage job, and it's a proven fact in this country you can't even pay your rent on a minimum wage job. So find out what the school provides for you in the way of helping you get financial aid. The most common financial aid, of course, is the guaranteed student loan. That's a government program that loans money to people not only seeking a college education, but vocational education. Now, we have a crisis in this country of college graduates who walk out of school with a degree and over $100,000 in debt. Now, you're saying, well, it's vocational school. If the school cost me $5,000, I'm only going to have $2,500 in debt, but you're going to have to pay that back. And as a student driver, you're not going to be making a lot of money. How are you going to pay that back? Some companies offer student loan repayment programs, but again, that requires a commitment. They'll say, you work for us for a year, we'll pay your student loan for you. But if you don't give us that year, you're going to owe us that money back. Now, if you go to driving school, and most companies require this too, you're going to have to get the hazmat endorsement on your CDL, and you're going to have to take the test for hazmat. Chances are they're going to also require you to apply for a TWIC card, Transportation Workers Identification Credential. The TWIC card allows you to get into secured areas of ports, rail yards, airports, anything that is considered a secure area without an escort. Now that costs money, and that you have to go through the process. Find out if your tuition at the driving school covers the cost of your hazmat application and your TWIC application. You have to go through a process where you are going to have to answer a questionnaire. The questionnaire you answer for the TWIC card and for hazmat is identical to the questionnaire that you get when you purchase a firearm. Same questions. The only difference is for a TWIC card and for hazmat, you also have to be fingerprinted, and you have to undergo an FBI background check. These things cost money. Find out who's going to pay for that. Do you pay for that out of your pocket? Does the school include that as part of the curriculum? Now, there are other sources of funding. There is a thing called a Pell Grant, which is a sponsored program which gives grants to people seeking education, seeking vocational opportunities. And that is a grant. That is money you don't have to pay back. There are other programs which might be available to you. Say, for instance, if you're unemployed, you've been out of work for a certain amount of time. These are programs, again, which are fully funded by either a government agency or a private source. And that's money you don't have to pay back. How do you get those? The easiest place to go and check into that is your local unemployment office, whatever your State Department of Employment Security is known as. Even if you're not unemployed, if you're looking for vocational training and you're looking for financial assistance, your local unemployment office is a great source for information on that. Okay, so how long am I going to have to be in school? Well, the program can be anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks, depending on how many days you devote per week to the program. Chances are you're going to have to put in 40 hours a week for 8 weeks, because for a school to be accredited, you have to be trained in that school for a minimum of 320 hours. Now, if you're going to a part-time program and you're not going 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, naturally the program is going to be a little bit longer. But for most programs, it's anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. So, in a nutshell, funding for the school, guaranteed student loan, Pell Grant, training, sponsored programs. So another thing you have to do at the school is you have to make sure that if you're applying for a Pell Grant, that the school accepts Pell Grants, because they're offering you 320 hours of training. By most standards, that is 1 semester of college credit, which means it should be eligible for a Pell Grant. But if one of these fly-by-night schools that says we're going to get you your CDL in 3 weeks, they're not in session long enough to grant you college credit, and they are not eligible for Pell Grants. Like I said, the program has to be a minimum of 320 hours in order to get a Pell Grant, in order to get college credit for your training. And remember, say you're just a semester away from your associate's degree. You're somebody like me who dropped out of college. But say I had another semester of college somewhere, and I only needed 1 semester. I could have taken that driver's school, applied that to my college credits, went to the state and said, well, this is my college transcript. Guess what, Sully? You now have an associate's degree. Well, I'm a semester away, and I'm almost 63 years old, so I'm still debating whether that's something I might want to do, but that's for another video. So, you've done all this, and you've enrolled in a school. Now you have to get down to brass tacks. What can you expect from school? Well, the very first day, they're going to gather the whole class in a room, and they're going to give you the course syllabus. That's a piece of paper that outlines what the training is going to be. They're also going to give you the nuts and bolts, the reality of not just truck driving school, but any vocational training, which is look around the room, because half the people in this room are going to drop out before they graduate. And that's another thing to remember. If you drop out, that doesn't mean you don't owe the school money. They've still given you training, and you're allowed to drop out, but they are allowed to charge you on a pro rata basis for the training you received. So say you received 80 hours of training and then you decided it wasn't for you. The tuition at the school was $5,000. So they're going to send you a bill for $1,250. And if you don't complete the program, you applied for a Pell Grant, kiss that money goodbye. You're going to have to pay that money out of your own pocket. Now, again, on your first day of school, they're going to explain that to you. But another thing they will explain to you is if you have put some money down and then find yourself eligible for a program that pays the full ride, you get a scholarship, you get a full boat to truck driving school, any money you paid to them, they have to pay you back. And that was the case for me. I think I had paid maybe a down payment of something like $250 towards my tuition when I became eligible for the Job Training Partnership Act program that paid for my driving school tuition. When I got into that program, I didn't even have to go to them. They came to me and said, you can expect a check in the mail. And it came within a week. And I did need that money. They're also going to tell you what their academic expectations are of you. For instance, you're going to have to take written tests along the way. And you're probably going to have to maintain a minimum grade, usually 70%. If you fall below that, they say, well, you're out of this program. But chances are, since they don't want you to fail, they're going to say, okay, you fell behind this level, beneath this level. There's another test in a week. If you fail that test, you go back to day one. It won't cost you any more. We want you to succeed. We'll give you a chance to succeed. So, if you go back to day one and fail, again, you know, they might even consider giving you a third chance, but chances are they won't. So, study. You'll only probably get one shot at a do-over. The best thing for you to do when you go to truck driving school is to check your ego at the door. Remember that those instructors are all former truck drivers. They've been where you want to be. Now, I remember I worked with a fellow who had gone to truck driving school, and he said, oh, those instructors, they're all a bunch of a-holes and jay-offs. The reason is, he walked in there all cocky, thinking he knew everything, thinking he was just going to sit back, hey, do me! Give me my CDL! And he found out, oh, I have to learn stuff? I have to work at this? You're not just going to hand it to me? I mean, I'm handing you money. It is an education. Education requires study. Your first day of school will also tell you if you need anything special. I advise you to stock up on pencils or pens and to get a notebook. They'll give you your textbook that you'll need. The textbook is very valuable. You're going to have lecture, you're going to have video, and you're also going to have visits from trucking professionals, recruiters from school. That's just the way it is. That's the classroom part. Classroom part will encompass half of your time there. You'll have to spend about 160 hours in the classroom. 4 weeks, 8 hours a day is the average. You'll have to complete 160 hours of classroom lecture. Like I said, it will involve a lot of films or videos as well as lectures, and there will be tests, and the textbook you get will also have quizzes. The idea of the quiz is to test your knowledge and see what you know, but they won't necessarily count towards your grade. Now, at the end of your classroom session, you're going to have to take a final written test. Chances are that's going to be the DOT test, and it's open book. So there's no reason why you shouldn't score 100 on that. The other half of your education, 160 hours, is called range. That's when you're actually in a truck, actually driving. Now, range is divided into two segments: yard and road. In yard, you're going to learn how to back your truck up, how to steer in tight places. They're going to teach you the basic maneuvers that you have to do to pass your CDL, which is an alley dock, a parallel park from the blind side, a parallel park from the sight side. You'll have to do a serpentine backing, and you'll have to back up your truck in a straight line. These are skills which you have to demonstrate in order to qualify for your CDL. So that's what they're going to teach you. And you're going to be doing it over and over and over. The idea is teach you how to back into a dock so that the first time you do it, you don't look like a fool. You're going to spend 80 hours actually out on the road driving the truck. Now, when it gets to that point, they usually divide the classroom, first of all, into two sections, two groups. One group is on range and one group is on road, and then the next day you switch. And the individual larger groups are usually divided into smaller groups. And the smaller groups are going to work in the yard as one unit, but you're all going to go out on the road as separate units with a road instructor, and you're going to learn how to drive the truck in traffic. They will take you out to a big hill, and you're going to have to go down at like an 8% grade. They're going to take you out into tight city traffic. They're going to take you out on the highway. They're going to take you out on the interstate. The first thing you're going to learn, though, is how to shift, because even though as we advance into the 21st century, odds are you're going to be in a truck with an automatic transmission, you still have to know how to shift a manual transmission. And that's usually done. They usually have a spot, the school has a spot where they teach you how to shift out on the road, where you go through what's called idle shifting, where you don't accelerate the truck using the fuel. You start out in the lowest possible gear, and then you double clutch through the gears without applying fuel until you get it up to speed. And they're going to teach you how to go through the gears. Then they're going to teach you how to downshift. You need the accelerator to learn how to downshift. The instructor will teach you how to shift, and eventually you will learn how to shift so proficiently that you may learn other techniques which will be useful to you as a driver, such as gear floating, or sometimes called speed shifting, which is shifting which doesn't involve using the clutch. But as we advance through the 21st century, more and more companies are equipping their fleet with automatic transmissions. Number one, because it makes the job that much easier for the driver, and number two, people are coming into this industry. The biggest thing that kept them out of the industry, otherwise they would be qualified, is they never drove a manual shift vehicle in their life. So you graduate. That big day comes. You will have to take a final skills test, which will involve the range skills that you have learned. Backing the truck in a straight line, backing the truck in a serpentine manner, alley docking, parallel parking sight side, parallel parking blind side. You will have to demonstrate those 5 skills. Now, depending on your state exam, you might only have to demonstrate 4 of those 5 skills. But most schools will not allow you to take the state test until you pass the school test. You've already passed the written test. Chances are the school's already taken you, or you've gone on your own, to pass the written portion of your CDL, which is basically the CDL test itself, the air brake endorsement, the hazmat written test. While you're in school, you should also apply for your tank and your double triple endorsements. Now, those written tests are only 20 questions, and you only take them once, unless of course you don't pass. Hazmat, you're going to have to take the written portion every time you renew your license. And you're also going to have to go through the background check procedure, which is getting fingerprinted, submitting to the FBI background check, answering the questionnaire. And depending on your state, however long your license is valid for, when your license comes due, your hazmat comes due. Now, I spoke earlier about the TWIC card, which is not necessary for a driving job, but most companies require it because if they have to do pickup or deliveries in secure areas, such as ports, airports, rail yards, and in the tank industry we did a lot of rail yards and ports for that matter. They want you to have that security, because if you have to go into a place such as that and you don't have a TWIC card, you're going to have to pay for an escort, and that can be as much as $150. And while you're in that area, you won't be allowed to get out of your truck. Somebody else is going to have to do the work, and if somebody else is doing the work, that means somebody gets paid for doing it. So trust me, get a TWIC card. Just about every company reimburses you for that anyway, and if hazmat is required for the job, your company should also reimburse you for the cost of the hazmat recertification. The written test, the background check, the fingerprint. Get receipts. So, you've graduated. You've taken the school written test, you've taken the school skills test. Now comes the next part, your state test. Most schools have somebody working at the school who is what they call a state examiner. He can do an exam on anybody who has applied for a CDL learner's permit, who has received a CDL learner permit, and they want to test, whether it's at that school or not. Now, if it's somebody from outside the school testing, they're going to have to pay a fee, because chances are they're going to let you use the school equipment to test it, unless you show up with your own truck. There has been a problem, and it's happened at community colleges that run truck driver training programs, but also at schools, where that state examiner is, how can I put this politely, corrupt. You'll get in that truck, you'll be scared crapless that you're going to fail. He's going to make you nervous, he's going to say, don't worry about it. You're going to pass today. In fact, I can guarantee you're going to pass. Just cost you $200 or $500 or whatever. And somebody says, well, hey, if that's all it takes, I don't actually have to prove that I know how to drive a truck to this guy, I just fork it over. Well, these greedy people have caused themselves a lot of trouble, and they've caused a lot of trouble for drivers, because just about everywhere that this has happened, that corrupt state tester usually winds up getting exposed, usually by somebody who has a conscience or somebody that wants to do it right. And they'll go to the state, or they'll go back to the school and say, hey, that guy that tested me, he said if I paid him $200 he would pass me and I wouldn't have to take the test. And if they get enough people like that, they're going to look into it. And it's a felony, by the way. And technically it's a felony to give him the money, because you're bribing a state official. It's a felony for him to even ask you for a bribe. And that's what it is. It's a bribe. And usually what states do is they're usually nice to the drivers, because they think that this is somebody who was scared, they were hoping to get a new career, they thought this was an easy means to an end. So they will give you the opportunity to retest. But that person that asked for the bribe, that state inspector, usually winds up in prison. So I really don't know what course you want to take if you get into a truck to be tested by a state tester and he asks for a bribe. I'll tell you what you should do, and that is refuse. And if your conscience dictates that you think you're being a tattletale, you won't say anything. You think you'll get your classmates in trouble, you won't say anything. Remember, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So strongly consider turning such a person in. You're not being a tattletale, you're not being a rat, you're making your job safer, because by this corrupt state examiner offering to pass people in return for money, and he's asking for a bribe, unqualified people might be getting on the road, and that just makes your job more dangerous. So I hope this video has been informative to you, will help you make an informed decision as to how to go about getting your CDL. Like I said, do your research, do your homework. Summing it up, Research, Google search, YouTube, Facebook, ask questions. Even go to a truck stop and talk to truck drivers there. Now, I'm going to be doing that in later videos. We should be seeing them shortly, but I just want to do these first few videos before I do that. And find out what they had to go through and what decisions they would have done differently had they been given the opportunity. But also remember that if a school sponsors a video or a company sponsors a video, they are going to blow their own horns. They're going to tell you the benefits. They're going to ask the order because they are trying to sell you something. Get independent, objective information. Make an informed and intelligent decision. My next video, I'm going to talk about getting a job with a carrier and what you can expect. And I'd like to remind you once again to please subscribe to this channel, like and share the video, and offer comments. Remember, subscribing is easy as hitting that subscribe button. You can get notifications by hitting that notification bell. Like this video so they can get out there and share it with your friends, because maybe you're not looking for a career in the trucking industry, but somebody you know might be looking for a trucking career, or somebody that your friends know may be looking for a trucking career. And I hope I've been helpful to you. For transitions, this has been Sully, the retired tanker yanker. Safe and happy travels.